Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. We're going to be going over an introduction of the EnGenius Networks portfolio. I'd like to quickly introduce you to our presenters today. So from Open Reality, we've got Craig Charles, our sales manager. We've also got Richard Shelford, who's our wireless consultant. He's going to be doing a demo a bit later on. And joining us from EnGenius is Ray. So Ray's going to give a quick introduction to EnGenius before we move on to our demo. You're going to be in listen only mode for this session. So if you do have a question, please use the Q&A panel and we'll answer some questions at the end. The session is being recorded and a recording is going to be made available to you following the session today if there's anything you want to recap. And we've also got a couple of exciting promos to run through at the end, so make sure you stick around for those. Okay, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Craig, who's going to give you a really quick introduction to Open Reality and why we've decided to partner with EnGenius.
Sure, thank you, Sam. Yeah, guys. So I just thought, give a bit of context to our partnership and why we chose to work with EnGenius. We, as you know, and obviously there's quite a lot of you on this call that will be Ekahau users of ours over many years. Probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we made the decision to expand our Wi-Fi distribution portfolio, and we've had a lot of success in that in terms of some of the Celtex products and 7 Signal, and probably pre-acquisition, if I'm honest, in the Mojo wireless platform. I think it probably was widely considered when Arista bought Mojo. It kind of put the price point more into an enterprise space, and although the platform's very good, it was then it's kind of similar price point to some of the other major vendors, the Ciscos, the Arubas. So we've been kind of looking at the market for another access point vendor for a long time, if I'm honest, and we've looked at several because the sort of feedback we're getting from our channel was that they're looking for something which is kind of enterprise grade features, but that has a kind of price point that is at the sort of lower end of the market, and certainly having options where there are no licensing and subscription options. So yeah, I mean, we think EnGenius delivers on those 2 points. Certainly the feature set, which you'll see in Ray's presentations and Rich's demo, it has functionality in line with the Arista platform, but at a price point which is much lower end of the market. In addition to that, we certainly like the fact that although the brand maybe isn't as well known in the UK, it very much is so kind of in Asia and in the US, and Ray will explain in a minute, it's part of a big brand. So as a company, there's their own manufacturing facilities. There are, there's a kind of big parent company behind it, which helps with the economies of scale to get to the right price point. And importantly, which we're seeing more and more at the moment, is good availability of stock, good inventory in this region. So yeah, as an all-round option, we felt like it ticked all the boxes. So yeah, we're quite excited to bring it to the market. And obviously this session is the first to introduce the platform. Yeah, looking forward to working with you guys with any requirements that follow from this session. So yeah, I thought I'd quick couple of minutes. Any questions? Obviously, following the session, feel free to contact myself or the account managers. And yeah, I'll pass on to Ray, who'll do a quick intro on EnGenius and as a company, and then Richard will do the product demo. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Can you hear me well? Is that okay?
Hear you loud and clear.
Yep. Okay. Okay, so here's the agenda. So this is Ray from EnGenius. I'm the business development manager for the UK. Here's the agenda. I'd like to give you an overview for our a bit of background of the company. And basically, we have 2 separate offerings. So the first one is called Fit. That's the on-premises solution. The second one is a cloud solution. Okay, followed by the cloud demo from Richard. And then I like to give you a bit of highlights of the comparison for the basic license and the pro license. And then Sam will mention about the promos. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so EnGenius. So we are a subsidiary of EnGenius Networks. Okay, so on the pictures you can see our offices. So we have 3 plants. So the first one, the plant 1 is headquarter, and then we have plant 2 and plant 3 is at the moment still we're still building the plant 3, and we're looking at starting operation at the end of the year. So we are first registered in the US, and globally we have 6 branch offices. So like Craig mentioned, we are coming from the bigger part of the business is actually the OEM business. So we are doing OEM business for big network brands from the US. Okay, so we have been manufacturing network products for the past 30 plus years. Okay, so for 2022, we're doing around $430 million as the annual revenue, and everything gets manufactured and produced in Taiwan 100%. We have more than 300, close to 400 in-house engineers. So that includes hardware engineers, firmware engineers, and software engineers. Okay, so this is our global presence. So we have the US branch office, we have the Canadian one, and we have the Netherlands office. So for the shipment and the support of European business, so we are doing from Netherlands office. Okay, so we are shipping all the products to our European customers from Netherlands. And Dubai is handling the Middle East and Africa business, and Singapore is in charge of the APAC business. Taiwan headquarters for the Taiwan business, and also R&D, research and development, and production is done in Taiwan. Okay, so we do not outsource any part of the production to any third parties. Okay, so we design and produce the products from ground up. Okay, we hold 12 SMT lines, and we have 15 final assembly lines, and the monthly production is about 1 million units. So that actually gives us a lot of advantages. So like from the support point of view, okay, so we can support in any levels. So we have the hardware engineer. If there's an issue or defect coming from the hardware, then we have a hardware engineer, and we have the software engineer and a firmware engineer that we can support from different levels. So even if there's a production issue, then there are engineers that can look at such kind of issues. Okay, and the second point will be what Craig has mentioned, right? Because of the having our own manufacturing facilities. So I suppose we have been facing the global supply constraint this year and last year. So of course we do face this kind of constraint too, but not as much. It's not impacted as much as other brands. So before, like for example, for now everything's recovered, right? So we can ship everything with like immediately. We have a very high stock availability, but during maybe 2 or 3 months ago, so our lead time was extended to 1 month or 2 months maximum. So we'll still have that capability for continuous supplying. Okay, so basically our products are divided into 2 solutions. So I'm really sorry, but you have to make your decision in the beginning. So you either choose the Fit hardware or you choose the cloud hardware. Okay, so those 2 are not cross compatible. You cannot upgrade the firmware from one another or vice versa. Okay, I'd like to give you a bit of introduction about Fit first. Okay, so within that Fit line, then you have 2 series, Fit Express and Fit Controller. Okay, on the left-hand side, the picture, you can see that little Fit logo printed on the hardware. Okay, there's a cute little Fit logo. Okay, so within this hardware, then there are 2 ways to manage your networks. Okay, so the first one is called Fit Express. I know this can create a bit of confusion because it's also cloud managed. Okay, the reason for this is because we're trying to compete with Aruba Instant On and Meraki Go. So we are targeting small to medium businesses. So businesses with 0 IT and multi-location. So we always get feedback from our customers that for EnGenius products, it's always very easy to deploy, very easy to install. You know, some end users, they have the fear that do they have to be like Cisco certified engineer to install the devices. But for EnGenius, it's never the problem because it's always plug and play and very easy to use. Okay, and the other solution is the fit controller. Okay, so you have to purchase a controller, and for that controller to be plugged into one of the network switches, and then you have the more enterprise level features. Okay, so it's dedicated for MSP and SIs who have their own data center and they wish to have their the data autonomy. Okay, so that's the fit controller. So what's the difference? Okay, on the left-hand side, you can see Fit Express. Okay, so it's actually just cloud, even though the it's on-premises solution, but everything is you do all the management and configuration on the cloud. Okay, maximum devices you can Fit Express can handle is 30. Okay, so that's a mixture, that's a sum of your switches and APs. So for example, maybe 10 switches and 20 APs, then you can manage within this Fit Express. Okay, and you can divide up to 8 networks. Okay, and on the right hand side, you need a controller, you need a physical controller to plug into your switch, and you can manage up to 100 devices, and you can divide up to 50 networks. And here the feature sets provided are much more similar than our cloud solution. So it's more enterprise level features and dedicated for SIs and MSPs. Okay, so we have the network switches, indoor access points, and outdoor access points. Okay, so that's the models. So we have the EWS 357-FIT, that's the 2x2 Wi-Fi 6, and these are the numbers for the throughput. We have the 4x4 EWS 377-FIT Wi-Fi 6, and outdoor-wise, you can go for EWS 850-FIT, and that's also Wi-Fi 6 MIMO 2x2. Okay, so that's the lineup for the switches. Okay, 8 port, 24 ports, and 48 ports. And why do we have 2 models for 24 ports? So they are actually differ by the power consumption. Okay, so because all these are PoE switches. Okay, so the maximum power consumption this 24 port can supply is 240 watt. Okay, and if you're looking to connect, all the maximum 24 ports with PoE APs and PoE cameras with maximum power consumption, then it's better to choose the 410 watt switch. Okay, so the same concept for the 48 ports. So half power 410 watt or the 740 watt. Okay, so that's a quick overview for the Fit line, and I like to introduce the cloud line. Okay, so we have this AI software. So this is called EnGenius Cloud Management. Okay, across this the line, we have access points, network switches, and security gateways. Okay, so this is a real serverless FaaS fast technology. Okay, so we are working together with AWS. So the actual server is located in the US, but for European, because in order to comply the European regulations, so a lot of configuration and European regulations are saved in the Frankfurt servers. Okay, so for what does it mean fast? Okay, so each request is made individually. So that means if a specific request or a function goes malfunctioning, it's not gonna be impacted to other features, to other functions. So the 99% or 98% of the cloud features functions will still be up and running. So you're not, it's very unlikely you have the whole cloud platform shut down. Okay, so this is the fast technology. Yeah, so there's no limitation. So we are focusing on enterprises, MSP, ISP, and we offer hardware-wise 6E and the 10G gigabit network switches, and we offer the whole models for security functions. Okay, so you can manage all the gateway, network switches, and APs in this big ecosystem. So either through the web interface or through the app on your mobile phone. Okay, you can easily see the topology connected in this ecosystem: gateway, switch, access points. All right, so let's start with gateway first. So this is the gateway that we just launched about 2 months ago. It's called ESG 510. So you can see that here on the left-hand side, you have a console port, so for debugging, okay, and you have a WWAN. Okay, so this is actually like a failover solution. So you can have a USB dongle cellular plugged into this port, and if all the Ethernet here provided from ISP goes malfunctioning, and this will be your redundancy solution. Okay, and then you have 2 ports of 2.5G WAN. Okay, that's connected to your router or ISP, and on the right hand side you have the 2.5G Ethernet ports for your LAN. Okay, so we'll be launching the ESG 610 and 620 in the very near future. The difference will be the higher performance in CPU, bigger RAM, and bigger higher Ethernet speed, and also bigger throughput for the firewall and the VPN throughput. Okay, so 2.G dual WAN, and for the 2 WAN, okay, we support failover and load balance. Okay, so this can act as a redundant port, and also if both of them are functioning well, then we offer the load balance. Okay, and cellular failover connection, like I mentioned, and the gateway will support both routing mode and pass-through mode. So if you don't have a router, then you can use this firewall, the gateway as a router. Okay, if you have an existing router, then you can just set this gateway as a pass-through mode. Okay, so you'll still provide the firewall and the VPN functions. Okay, so this is the lineup for the access points. For example, this ECW 120, this is Wi-Fi 5, followed by the Wi-Fi 6 220, so standard 220 and 220S. So if you see the ending letter with the S, that's the security feature. Okay, so this is a 2x2 Wi-Fi 6, and then 4x4 ECW 230, and 4x4 with the S security feature. Okay, and then we have the ECW 336, that's a 6E, so running on the 6 gigahertz channel. And then we have the Wallplay ECW 115, Wi-Fi 5 AC here, and ECW 215, that's the Wi-Fi 6 AX here. And these 3 are actually the outdoor versions. Okay, so normally the outdoor will, the difference will be the IP protection and also the distance. Okay, so we can cover up to 1 kilometer for the distance. Okay, so AC, this is the Wi-Fi 5, and then you have the AX, the Wi-Fi 6 2x2, and then you have the Wi-Fi 6 4x4. I think that's pretty straightforward. Okay, so just now we mentioned about the ones end with the S. Okay, if you just buy the 220S or the 230S, you just get the zero-way DFS. Okay, so the AP is constantly scanning for the DFS channel. So if it encounters a radar signal, then it has to be evacuated to another DFS channel. So we can do that switch without waiting. So the clients are not gonna feel that the switch has been done. Okay, so that's the function from the 220S and 230S hardware. Okay, and if you like to upgrade from the basic license to the pro license, then you get the software feature, the AirGuard. Okay, then the system will be able to detect the rogue SSID, evil twins, malicious attacks, and RF jamming. Okay, so this is the lineup for the network switches. You have the 10G, so 8 10G Ethernet ports, followed by the 4 10G SFP plus ports. and then this is the 8 10G ports too. Okay, and then you have for these ones you have the 4 2.5G and 4 2.5G ports. Okay. Yeah, the difference here is these are the PoE with a 420 watt, and these are not PoE. Okay, so it cannot act as a PoE port. Okay, so this is the lineup for 48 1G Ethernet ports. Okay, you have 48, full power, half power, non-PoE. Okay, and this is 24 1G full power, half power, and no PoE, and then the standard 10 ports 130 PoE switch. Okay, so this is the aggregate switch that we just launched. It's called ECS 5512F. The main hardware spec is the 12 ports of 10G SFP plus ports, and it's designed in the half rack form factor. So actually we offer the brackets here, and you can connect 2 of these models and make it one full 1U 19-inch rack switch. Okay, so that gives you the 12 plus 12, 24 ports of the 10G SFP switch. Okay, so actually our switches are quite interesting. They have very interesting features. So for example, this PoE continuous power. So while because this is all managed by the cloud interface, right? So sometimes you might get the firmware upgrade. Okay, so what we are saying here is while the system is doing the firmware upgrade, the PoE power continues to supply. Okay, it's not gonna be stopped because of the firmware upgrade. Okay, so this is one feature. And PD lifeguard, the switch will continuously ping the device. In case of no reply, the PoE will be interrupted to force the device to restart. So if the IP camera is not responding, we'll force a reboot. Okay, PoE extended mode, extend the max cable length from 100 meters up to 200 meters. Okay, so until 100 meters, then we can supply the standard speed, right? So from 100 meter to 250, the data rate will be limited and dropped to 10 megabit per second. But of course, you can add a PoE adapter in between to get that extended. Okay, so that's a very succinct overview about EnGenius background and our solutions. So I'll hand over to Richard for a cloud demo.
Thanks very much, Ray. I think you're muted, Richard. No, still can't hear you.
Unmuted? Yeah.
There we go.
Where's my screen sharing? I should be presenting. Where's my screen share gone? Ah, share. Share a screen. And I want that one. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. So this is the web interface of the EnGenius Cloud solution. We also have a interface on a application running on a iOS or platform. So if you want to manage your environment from your phone, you may, and changes in here would then be reflected on the cloud-based system. Likewise, you can have alerting and stuff like that coming to your phone if you are that way inclined, if it's an important alert that you need to be aware of. Get that out of the way now. Right, okay, so when you first log into the screen, we have, or into the solution, we have various options or organization. the way that the cloud environment is organized is there has to be an organization. Now, everything in that organization is only applicable to that organization. So if you want to be multi-tenanted in the sense of providing a service, or even to various different customers, or to have different regions. So if you're a multinational and you want to have a UK area and a European office and the US office, they all get created as an organization separately. And when you make changes to one organization, it does not have any impact on the others. You can also invite additional administrators to individual organizations. So you may have the situation where a global IT department has split the solution into various countries, and but you only want your regional IT to actually be able to see their regional office, or even down to a further level to say, and Bob in the London office can only see the London office environment. Regional can see all of the offices in the UK, and then if you're global IT, you can see everything and control everything to it. So you have that flexibility. Now I've got in here a test environment, and anything I do in my test environment would not affect the open reality environment or the basic org environment on that side of it. So if I'm logging into my test environment here, so as we see here, this is the overview of the environment. So my test environment, and we have a nice thing here that says everything is okay. We have currently 2 switches online, we've got 2 access points online, and we've got 3 clients connected, and we can see that our 3 clients are connected on the 5 gig radio. We can see further down here, what current throughput is occurring. So based on the currently today, if I wanted to look at a larger period of time frame, if I've got the Pro feature set, which Ray is going to discuss briefly at the end of this, we can then increase that to say what's it look like after the last week, after the last month, etc. We also get an overview down here as to what's actually happening. So what is the top applications through? Now, please note, we are not turning around. We don't give the ability to say, right, who, and drill into this and say who is using HTTP. We're just saying HTTP is the top traffic, TLS, etc., going down through, and then again with the operating system. So we can see the devices. We can see that we've got 3 users that are using Linux operating system. I can't drill in to see what those 3 users are at this point, and I certainly cannot see what they're doing on that side of it. We have here again ability to change date ranges, etc., on that side of it. So that's the overview of the organization. Now we can drill down into this into a further level, so I can move into a network. Now a network could be an office, it could be multiple offices, it's just another a level underneath the organization, and access points and switches get assigned to networks on that side. Again, we still see the same information on this site. Everything is okay. If we had multiple networks, we could then have drilled into the individual networks. We can see what's configured, and we get the same information being displayed. Now, we can take that and say a little bit further, and I'm just going to drop down onto the topology, because obviously one of the things that you might be experiencing, we've got a problem. We've got an access point that's down. I can click straight onto the access point in here, and we can see which access points are actually up because they've got nice little green beside them. And if I want to, I can go into the actual access point. So I'm here seeing an overview. Yes, it's up. It last updated a minute. In other words, it homed into the cloud to say, yep, I'm up. So we know we are up on here. And if I click on the details here, we are then taken to the access point, and we can see how that access point is actually configured. What that access point has actually been doing, the throughput on this one AP. This looks the same because that's where the majority of my traffic has been going through on this one access point. Again, I can drill down even further and say, in this case, which SSID, this SSID, this is the activity that's been occurring on that one AP. We can see information about the access point, and we can even include a photograph of the AP. So if you want to know where that access point has been physically deployed, it's all recorded in the environment here. Additionally, we can see, the logs of the device, so what's actually been happening to it, as well as what clients are currently connected or have been connected, in this case, to my access point, what they're doing on that side of it. We can then drill into an access point here. So if there's a client, into a client, so if there's a client that's actually been experiencing problems, why can't he connect, etc. What's he been doing? By clicking onto the client, which then takes us into the client timeline, and we can see then what that client has actually been doing. So the client disconnected. We can see on here he associated, and then he disassociated from the access point a few minutes later. He connected at 10:35, and his current, we know he's still currently connected, and we can see his receive signal strength, and we know he's associated still into here. We can see what that client has been doing when he roams between access points. We can see that roaming. So if something stops working, we know what that client has been doing. This is a pro feature, so the timeline, what's actually been happening. We can also say, well, yeah, that device has been associated. What have we actually seen from an exposure perspective? So in other words, what other devices has that client seen on that network? So we can see that that client on this network here has been exposed on at 8:51 to this device called Apple device. And then at 9:08, he was then also exposed to the Apple device and another Windows laptop and an unknown device. Unknown because we don't know the host name, but we do have a MAC address of it on that side. And we can then drill in and we can start to see, what that device has been exposed to, if we need from a security perspective to say, to trace something back. Where did something come from? What's actually something been happening in our network? Now we're looking here, on this device on that side of it. Now, if I go back to my access points, so I'm going to go back into this particular AP here. If we want to make minor configuration changes, it might be, for example, that we don't want the corporate SSID to be broadcast on this particular access point. Well, I can do that, tick the tick box here, and then disable it. And when I then apply, the corporate SSID would be removed from that AP. We also have built in additional diagnostic tools. So if I click onto the diagnostics, this is connecting in real time back to my access point, and we can then see the CPU usage, the throughput currently on the AP, so what's actually happening. We can also run a speed test on the wired interface from the access point. So people are complaining that, hey, the internet is slow in that building. Okay, I'm running a test. Well, I can see here that, 70 meg, if that's what we've got in the building at that point, we know it's not an internet problem. Or if the internet speed testing is showing that as being slow, we then can be starting to look at other parts of the network. We have the ability to do a trace route, again, from the access point. So if there's a connectivity issue with clients, etc., can't get to something, what's it doing on? I've got the tools to be able to do it from the access point remotely. And of course, I can do this from my phone. We can do a channel utilization scan. So based on what channels are being used. Now, when I click the scan on here, it's going to go through and just see what the current environment looks like. We can do it on 2.4 and 5. And we also, with a Pro license, have the ability to look at a spectrum. Now, because this access point has got an S on the end of it, as Ray said, this means it's the security AP. The security AP has that third radio, so I can quite happily select the 5 gig band, for example, click activate, and I am now doing a real-time spectrum analysis or spectrum survey when it finally gets to on the access point. And we'll be updating this in real time, he says. Come on. Here we come. So we're now doing a spectrum analysis on the AP, and we're seeing what's going on through it. Now, the nice thing is, as I said, because we have this third radio, this is not interrupting any client activity. My clients can quite happily continually to be connected to the environment. And as you can see, it's reasonably quiet. Just turn off the deactivate it. And we also then have the live client. So this is the clients actually concurrently connected to my access point, what they're actually doing, how long they've been connected, what their current signal strengths are, etc. And that updates on that side of it. And across the top here, we're actually seeing the topology as to how it's connected. So this actual access point is connected to this switch, which is then going out to the internet. Now, if I close this down and I click on the topology link here, this is now going to take me to my environment. So this allows me to bring in to here. So we're seeing here the topology of the network. So because I selected it from the AP, we're seeing this access point highlighted, and when I hover over it, we can see how that AP is physically connected. If I select other devices here, this is now going to say, and we can now see how it's connected to the internet. If I take this little step further and select on here, I can see what ports are in use, how everything is connected to my switches. If I want to see the details on this particular switch here, I can click on the details, and then that takes me to the switch configuration here. So what's the ports, how are they configured? Port 2 is being used for power delivery. Ports 11 and 12, these are the uplink ports. Now I know they're the uplink ports because they've got the arrows on it. The system has learnt that based on the connectivity as it goes through the environment. Again, some of the configuration can be overwritten automatically. We are here saying, well, globally we have configured on this family of switches that spanning tree is going to be enabled. We've got LLDP enabled. We don't have the voice LAN enabled. Voice LAN is the automatic VLAN associate or assignment based on the client type that's being connected. Now, if I say which is the voice VLAN and base it on mode auto, if we see these OUI addresses starting, we know that it's a Siemens device if it's 0001E3. So we would then drop it onto whichever VLAN we've done. We can manually add additional ones if we want to on that side of it. Quas is not enabled, but could be enabled on here. Now I can override this on a per switch basis if I want, or I can set it as a system default starting point on the switches on that side of it. Each switch obviously has multiple ports on it. You can create VLANs effectively that they're globally available, and then you assign the VLANs to the particular port that you want these VLANs to be used on that side of it. We do the same and say for the VLAN creation, we have the ability and we can export and import VLAN configuration if we want to. We have the ability on a switch to actually configure the switch to mirror traffic off to additional ports, as well as we can do a scheduled PoE availability. So if you've got access points plugged in addition to saying, well, the SSIDs go off at 5 o'clock in the evening or 6 o'clock. Let's go take that a little bit further and let's save the PoE power or the energy this day and age and say, right, well, we'll turn off all of our access point switch ports from a PoE perspective at 6 o'clock in the evening, because let's save the electrical energy. We can link aggregate, of course, and then we've got logs. Now, if I click onto the diagnostic tab on here, this then takes me into a similar diagnostic arrangement as we had for the access point. Again, across the top here, we can see how the switch is actually connected to going out to the internet, what its current usage is like. I can run a cable test from the switch. We can do the trace route again from the switch. We can see the ARP table on the switch. We can also see what clients are actually connected. So this is from the ARP address space, which VLAN they're on, etc. On that side of it. And I can also do, with the Pro license, a packet capture on a particular port. So if I'm trying to troubleshoot a issue, I know, there's a problem. Let me just go and packet capture on port 2, for example, on here. By default, does it for 60 seconds. And so when I start this, let me put that in for 10 seconds. Select port 2, and then when I click capture, we're now going to be capturing traffic for 10 seconds. I haven't applied any filters, so we're going to see all of the data captured. And in a few seconds' time, we'll then have the information being made available to download. 8, 9, 10, and down comes the packet capture file, which I can then open up in my favorite protocol analysis application and see what's actually going on. And I've obviously captured nothing this time around, but that's the capability, because I'm whatever policy I had on that side of it, probably there's nothing traffic to capture. That's probably why I didn't capture anything on that port. But again, we've got that ability to take into the environment. Now, so that's the sort of the infrastructure side. Now, if I'm going to have access points, I want to create an SSID. Well, various SSIDs can be created here. I've got a few that have been configured. So if we take the guest one, for example, this guest SSID has a name, it's being broadcast. We can decide what radios we're going to have it on globally. So is it a 2.45 or a 6 gig SSID? I've got it open, although it's a guest SSID. Normally a guest SSID would tend to generally be open. I have a pre-shared key. Now, the nice thing is that instead of having to tell somebody what the pre-shared key is, I can just print out this QR code and you scan it with your phone, and it will effectively join that phone to the wireless network without you having to enter the pre-shared key on that side of it. We can do something called WPA2 MyPSK. So this is with a Pro license where every device has its own unique pre-shared key. Problem with the pre-shared keys in the environment in enterprises is they get shared, somebody leaves, that pre-shared key is known by that left party. How do I control it? Well, I now go and change the pre-shared key on the SSID, which means I've now got hundreds of devices or tens of devices that may need to have their pre-shared keys updated. Well, if every device has its unique pre-shared key, then when Bob leaves, I just delete Bob's account effectively, or Bob's pre-shared key, and Bob has now gone without anybody being aware of the environment, having to have additional changes. Now, this particular SSID, we're actually natting the user behind the IP address of the access point, which gives me the ability to override the DNS to say, well, instead of using the corporate DNS. I might want them to go and use a URL filtering DNS. I can obviously bridge it on that side of it, so they are on the local network. Now, because this is a guest SSID, we might want to limit the bandwidth. So I've got the bandwidth on the wireless side here configured to 1 megabit per client, but if I've got 100 clients on that AP or 50 clients on that AP, I don't want them to have 50 megabits of downloaded internet available, megabits per second, because that might affect my corporate SSID. So what I can say is I can have a combination that says, yep, you get 1 megabit, but there's going to be a maximum of 5 megabits. So if there's 6 of you, you'll get less download available individually, not exceeding the 5 megabits per second. And we get some hints as to down here as to what you need to provide. So providing basic web and email, 1 megabit per second is perfect for the clients on that side of it. Now I'm taking them into a captive portal. Now this particular captive portal has been configured to use the voucher service. So this could be a SSID for a company. Visitor comes along, wants to have connectivity, makes the request, we give the user the ability. Now the receptionist then go and create the user password, and that particular user and password is then valid for, in this case, 1 hour from the first login on that side of it. It gives us the ability to control the user, and that is a receptionist user that's seeing that, so the front desk manager on that side of it. And I've said, from the first user access, so that it can be created in advance. I can also say what it's from the time the account has been created. We have other various options of logging in on that side of it. Social, Wi-Fi, tying off to an LDAP server, an AD, or to Google LDAP if you've got the pro options. Now the splash page is actually hosted on the access point, or is hosted and made available from the access point. It is in the system. Now we have here a nice WYSIWYG interface, so I can change on here to make the changes occur. Now, if that is, I want to have more ability to change this, we can actually go into the HTML and make the changes in there accordingly. Because I'm using the local splash page, I could, if I want to, have it pointing out to a third-party hosted splash page on that side of it. Obviously, if I'm going to put a third-party splash page in, I need to make sure that under my walled garden down here, I actually allow access to that third-party splash page on that side of it. Can change the schedule. So when is this SSID going to be available? Particularly Monday to Friday. Don't have any requirements for it to be available at the weekend, etc. And then we also have under the access control here the ability to add or deny devices. So if I enable the access control on here and I've blacklisted particular devices, even if they have a valid username and password, they're never going to be able to associate to the SSID. And then we have the VIP list, which is designed for devices where we do not want that particular device to have a pop-up on it. So for example, if this is the guest SSID that you're using for a TV, well, we'll put the TV's MAC address in on that side of it, and we always want that device to be able to be connected to the network on that side of it. So that's how we can then, configure the individual switch or individual SSIDs. We have other options on here. So if we take the system, so it's the switches, we have what we call the template. Now a template allows you to have like a default configuration that you apply per switch model. That gets applied, and then you do the customization on each individual switch as required on that side of it. also have obviously the ability from a map and a floor perspective. So looking into here, we can see where the environment is. We can then drill in to the floor plan or into the site. And when I expand, come on, expand into here, I can drop my access points into the locations as to where they've been assigned to. So I know where they are. I can see the number of clients, etc. from it on that side. I can, if I want to, I can, the Pro license, I can put a virtual AP on so I can use it for some limited designing side of it. Now, if that's not enough, we also then have the ability to generate either a one-time report or a scheduled report. So if you're providing a service, then I can have a demo report. So if I go into here, so this particular demo environment. So if I want to create a new report, I can select one of the predefined layouts. I can upload my logo to it. I can put my name, etc. that I want on. I can then click, I need to give it a name. Select the language I want, upload put into the next, decide what I want in the report. So I may want the topology, I might want the Google map, I might want the floor plan, I might want the information about the SSID. When do I, what environment is it? So this is for the test environment. Or I could say, well, I only want it on the test lab, so only on a subsection of that. So one particular office, etc. The period I want, which SSID do I want on that? So all or just one particular one? Do I want it to be done now at a point in time? Or do I want it to occur weekly? And if I want it sent to somebody automatically on a schedule, put their email address in and away we go. And then when I click next on here, we get a summary of it. When I click apply, it's now going to go and generate that report because I said it's a now one. So if I now look at the demo report here, so I can click on the download and we get a PDF which has our information about the site, etc. already for me, so I can see what's going on. So if as a service, I can provide that for you. So I think it's now time to hand back to Ray.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's we've got 8 minutes left, so that should give us enough time to quickly run through the differences between the basic and the pro license, and then we've got those couple of promos to tell you about, and then we can move on to Q&A. So Ray, when you're ready, if you
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah. Can you see my screen and hear me well?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So if you purchase the cloud managed devices, okay, whether it's gonna be the switches or the APs, you always get the pro plan for the first year for free. Okay. Let me hide this box here. Yeah. So as soon as you assign that device to a specific network, it starts the countdown, and you have the first year pro features, what Richard has just now demonstrated for free. Okay. So that's a comparison of the basic plan and the professional plan. Okay. I think it's quite straightforward. For example, for the team members, the accounts, whether to set it to admin, to viewer. For the pro plan, you only have 10 users, and for pro plan, you have unlimited. Okay. And like Richard mentioned about the voucher service, for the basic plan, you can generate 108 entries per annum, and for the professional plan, it's 10,000 entries per annum. Okay. And then you have with the pro plan, you have the backup and restore, and then you can see the live client list. And okay, also if you like to integrate our cloud features into your platform, then for the API integration, okay, we need to go with the pro plan. Okay. For the reports, what Richard has demonstrated, one report per annum for the basic plan and unlimited for the pro plan. Okay. Okay, so this is the comparison for the access points, live client, and then a lot of the VLAN configurations you only get with the Pro plan, dynamic VLAN pooling, and my PSK. So in order to generate a unique PSK for each client, then we need to go for the Pro plan. Okay, and the AD, LDAP, and Google DAP, Google GLDAP. Okay, so that's also available from the Pro plan. And also the live client list, AirGuard, and the spectrum analysis, which was demonstrated from Richard just now, is only available from the Pro plan. Okay, for the switch comparison, here you have the basic, the template. Okay, so if you save all the configuration in one template, and you can clone that template to other switches. Okay, so that's only available for Pro plan. And then the auto can lifeguard and the switch backup and restore. Okay, and the packet capture. Okay, so it's only available from the Pro plan. And for the network topology, with the basic plan, you can see EnGenius devices only, and with the Pro plan, you can see everything. Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's EnGenius brand or if it's third-party devices. For the gateway, okay, the auto VPN net traversal is only available from the Pro plan, and the VPN topology, backup and restore, and also the network clone. Okay, if you like to clone the network to the other one, and you need to go for the Pro plan.
There's a full list of exactly what you get included in the licenses on the EnGenius website if anybody wants to refresh themselves or see that again.
Okay, so now I'll hand over to Sam for the current promos. Sam?
I think it's me, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Your time to shine, Craig.
I know. So there's a couple of sort of campaigns, if you like. So I know the people have attended this session of Sinner, a demo from Richard. But if you want to arrange a kind of follow-up session, it's got a demo listed here. So if you want to go in a little bit deeper, potentially in terms of any further requirements on the wireless or the switching or the security gateway, but in general, actually, if you're just willing to book a follow-up meeting, whether that be kind of a Teams meeting or an on-site meeting, just have a further discussion about potential opportunities we've got to work with you guys with EnGenius. We're giving away the this power bank. And Ray, could you do the next slide?
Yeah.
Is it refreshing? So there's a number of online training options that EnGenius do through their academy, which are listed here. The middle two, which are the professional versions, so the switching, which is the network professional version, and then the wireless professional version. If you complete them, and I think they probably take probably 2 to 3 hours, depending on your kind of networking and wireless knowledge, then you would qualify for a free switch for the networking course and a free AP for the wireless course. And if you do both, you do get a free switch and a free AP. There's a kind of limited quantities. Ray, correct me if I'm right. Have we defined how many are available? I know this promo is going to run probably to the end of next quarter, but did we agree a number? I can't remember.
No, actually, let's just go ahead. So this promotion
okay.
ends in June next year. So within this period, it's all good. Yeah.
Fine. Okay. So we should have quantities for people. So again, we can send that link out, speak to your representative of Open Reality, have further discussions about that. But yeah, if you want to get your hands on equipment, and that would be yours to keep for internal purposes or demos or whatever that would be. So yeah, it's a good way to get hold of free equipment and then become familiar with both the EnGenius networking and the wireless side as well. Cool. Sam, we're going to jump to Q&A now.
Yeah, we've got a couple of minutes just for some quick questions. So a question we had earlier on is how do we get access to POV or NFR stock? So in addition to that, stuff's available for purchase, isn't it, Craig?
Sure, yeah. So within the training programs, there are, obviously that it's the kind of 8-port switch, and then the 120, which is the Wi-Fi 5. If you'd want a different switch or access point, then there are none for resale purchase options available. And we do have demo equipment here, so if you're just looking to effectively borrow something for a short period of time to run an evaluation, then we can do that as well. So there's lots of options, both free of charge if you want to keep it, chargeable at a reduced rate if you want a different option than in those programs, and thirdly, effectively a short-term loan for a trial.
Okay, great. Got a question here about USB dongles for 3-4G failover. Is that an option, and are there any restrictions involved?
Ray,
Yes,
Richard, do you want to take that one?
It's an option for the gateway. There are a list of, should we say, tested, approved USB adapters for it. So if you're interested on those, we can make the list available for you on that side of it. But there are, I should say, some restrictions in that sense, which are expanding on from an AP, from a dongle perspective. It's a relatively new product.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Are there any product scale limits? Isn't it another question?
Are we talking on the cloud here, or are we talking on the fit on-prem? Because as Ray said, the on-prem, the fit solutions, they do have limitations. There are some limitations, shall we say, from the cloud, but not that is going to affect any users.
For the cloud, yeah.
For the cloud, yeah, there are some restrictions, but not, shall we say, feasible, restrictive restrictions, and certainly the chances are, as Ray was saying, on the pro licenses, some of the features are limited on the free license. So the number of pre-shared keys, vouchers, for example, go to the unlimited, to the pro 10,000 vouchers per admin. So yeah, there are some restrictions, limitations, but generally the sizing is not going to be causing you a problem.
So theoretically, but you're unlikely to hit them.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Got a question about how much is the pro license. Craig, will be able to give an indication on how much the pro license is?
Sure. Yeah. So it's 50. So as we mentioned before, the first year is free, both on the switching and the access points. It's $50 per device. So you can, if you're using a combination of switches and wireless, you can just have pro features on either wireless or switching, but you can't mix and match. So if you have wireless and you have switching, you need to have the professional licenses if you choose to in year 2. So it's $50. There are multi-year discounts available. So if you were looking at a 3 or a 5 year term, that would be discounted. I think the discounts are around about 20% on 3 years, and I think it's slightly higher on 5 years. So that's to give you a bit of a guide. Price wise, I mean, there are price books that we can send out in terms of, giving indication. I mean, as a ballpark, Wi-Fi 5 APs, around about the £150 mark. A Wi-Fi 6 AP is around about the £280 mark. So they do compare very well in the market. Certainly if you can use the inclusive licensing, it's very competitive. But even if you're having to pay for the licensing, when you bundle that together, I think over a 3 or 5 year term, given the functionality which hopefully you've seen, it does certainly compare well to some of the other options in the market.
Right. We have had a question about availability of products. I know you mentioned, I think earlier, Ray, that availability is extremely good. Longest lead times sort of about a month at the moment, which I know compared to a lot of vendors is incredibly short.
Yeah. I was just going to say, we do have an inventory here at Open Reality, which is a sort of smaller inventory. So if you need a lower quantity of product, we can potentially ship that out next day. For any larger quantities that are running in the hundreds or even thousands, probably hundreds. Ray, correct me if I'm wrong. Hundreds can probably dealt with from the Netherlands warehouse. If we're dealing with thousands, we would just need to have a bit more sort of advance notice to build in the inventory schedules. Would that be fair to say, Ray?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but of course it depends on the whether these are the hot selling models. But for the hot selling models, for the hundreds is no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one final question, because I know we have run a little bit over today. Is there any development info available for the API? You mentioned about the API, Ray, that people can integrate the features into their own platforms if they wish.
Yeah, actually, I can send a link to show the API specs.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
I'll get that forwarded on to the person
yeah,
that's asked that question. And if anybody
okay.
else wants that, then yeah, in our follow-ups with your Open Reality rep, then just let us know. We can send that over to you. Okay, I'd like to thank our panelists today for your time and for giving everybody a fantastic overview of EnGenius. I'd like to thank everybody for attending. We'll send you out an email with any relevant links to the academy so you can do the training. And then, yeah, hopefully we'll see you on a session soon and we can get a free power bank sent out to you. All right, thanks all, and hopefully see you again soon.